She lights candles in every corner of her house each time she returns home, for fear that a trace of darkness might fall there. This is because once night falls, the house no longer belongs to the homeowner. And seeing the roof being eroded by vine-like tendrils, the homeowner is forced to kidnap a young girl this night. She turns off the surrounding lights and waits quietly in the dark. As the girl's sobs grow louder, a low perspective slowly approaches her. As soon as these words are spoken, even the surrounding candlelight flickers out in fear. In the darkness, only the monster's glowing green pupils are visible. Fortunately, this creature is nearsighted and completely fails to notice the wire-woven trap beneath its feet. The monster immediately roars and leaps up, but the surrounding firing pin bullets instantly twist it into a knot. But they see the trap successfully triggered. With the rising dust, everyone dares not let their guard down. Until the monster oozes a pool of blood, only then does the homeowner dare to come out with a shotgun and fire 2 more shots. She triumphantly tells the girl that it can be killed. No sooner does she finish speaking than the homeowner is firmly pinned down like a chick. She is completely powerless to struggle. Then, with a snap, the monster tears the homeowner in half. And looking at the incredibly bloody scene, Sadie, the girl, cannot fathom that her doctor father is actually helping a monster. The narrator welcomes viewers to The Boogeyman, a horror story for every night. That day, Dr. White, the psychologist, takes his 2 daughters to school as usual. But once he returns to his home office, he immediately receives a patient with a troubled expression. White is a psychologist who specializes in helping others overcome their troubles. The man also reveals his worries. He says he killed his 2 children, but immediately adds that it seems he did not kill them. Just as White's mind is about to break, he sees the man draw a monster with thin arms and legs. He claims this thing mimics his voice and devours his 2 children. He then asks White if he believes everything he says. After hearing this, White is clearly stunned. He outwardly says he believes him. He then turns around and runs to the kitchen to call the police, asking them to send detectives to arrest the man. Meanwhile, the strange man runs to White's second-floor bedroom and encounters Sadie, who is washing clothes. It turns out that 30 minutes earlier, a group of classmates bullied her. They provoke Sadie by bringing up her mother, who died in a car accident. This leads to a fight, and her clothes get dirty. Just then, Sadie hears a strange noise coming from her mother's art studio. Thinking it is her father, Sadie slowly follows the sound. As she reaches the doorway, she steps on a puddle of bright red liquid. This frightens Sadie, but luckily, it is just some paint. However, the art studio, which she meticulously cleans every day, is now a complete mess. Seeing her mother's belongings, Sadie feels extremely heartbroken. Just as she sheds tears while holding the family portrait, a banging sound comes from the nearby storage room. The man's wails grow increasingly tragic. Sadie thinks it is her father and frantically pushes open the door. But her father rushes in from outside right after, telling Sadie that a madman has broken into their house. But before he finishes speaking, Dr. Bite immediately looks at the door with a grave expression. It turns out to be the man he considers a madman, who has already hanged himself on the door. Following Sadie's scream, many police officers arrive at their house not long after. However, the man's death is ruled a suicide. This makes Sadie very confused, because before she pushes the door, she clearly hears some commotion, like a fight. But the officer says that some commotion from an adult hanging oneself is perfectly normal. So, they quickly take the body away and hastily close the case. Meanwhile, Sadie, holding her younger sister, is clearly worried. She always feels that this matter is not that simple. Until late at night, Dr. Bai tells Sadie to stop thinking about the man from earlier. He then goes to his younger daughter's room to gently comfort her to sleep. This is something he used to do with his wife. Now, only Dr. White is alone by the bed. But not long after he leaves, the younger sister, who sleeps holding a lamp, slowly opens her eyes. She hears some rustling sounds coming from outside the door. Then the door is suddenly pushed open, and the hallway is completely dark. Because the younger sister is already afraid of the dark, this scares her and she gasps for breath. And in the blink of an eye, something drills under the bed with lightning speed. Suddenly, the younger sister, holding the lamp ball, is at a loss. The sister, in a panic, leans her head down, wanting to see what it is or if it is just her imagination. This sudden appearance frightens the sister badly. She thinks about quickly going to the next room to find Sadie. But at this time, Sadie cannot sleep, so she runs downstairs to her father's study to look through documents, wanting to see what was going on with the man from earlier. On a notebook, she sketches the draft page that her father deliberately tore out. On it is a monster splayed out. In the recording, her father talks with the man, when suddenly he seems possessed and starts speaking incoherently, then unintentionally lets out a scream. This frightens Sadie, and she drops her father's Nokia phone into a kettle. Because this phone is a limited edition, she worries her father will be angry, so she quickly runs to the kitchen to wipe it clean. Just then, a section of the ceiling constantly drips water. In a short time, it also becomes densely covered with moss-like plants. Next to it, a pair of glowing green eyes stares intently at Sadie. Sadie then opens the nearby fridge, sees the ceiling is normal, and thinks she is imagining things. But the next second, her sister rushes over, yelling, and startles her. Seeing the draft notebook fall from Sadie's hand, the sister instantly freezes. She claims that the thing just scared her half to death. So the next morning, Sadie rides in her classmate Willow's car and arrives at a secluded old house, which is the home of Lester. Looking at the dilapidated exterior and overgrown weeds, Sadie assumes no one lives there. But she never expects the interior to be a different world. The second-floor hallway is not only filled with candles. Black vines also crawl all over the ceiling. This makes one subconsciously think of witchcraft or similar things. Sadie searches all over the house for someone.
This some kind of a dare?
Lester's wife, Jean, hears the sound and runs over. She thinks Sadie is a mischievous kid looking for thrills on her property. Exhausted from the death of her husband and children, Jean cannot bring herself to scold Sadie and tells her to get out. After hearing that Sadie is the doctor's daughter and seeing the monster on the paper, Jean begins to explain. She explains that this monster has latched onto their family, specifically targeting vulnerable individuals with psychological trauma, killing them, and then draining their blood. Originally, the children all claimed there was a ghost in the closet. Jean absolutely refuses to believe it and always suppresses her two children, but only now does she deeply regret it. As the two are talking, Jean suddenly gets a determined look and shouts at Sadie not to move. She says the monster is right behind Sadie. Then, without regard for Sadie, she aims at Sadie's shoulder and fires a burst of bullets. Jean wants to avenge her children so badly, and this crazy action frightens Sadie, making her bolt out the door. Willow, waiting outside, even thinks they are involved in some shady business. The two flee the place in a sorry state. When the younger sister sees the distraught Sadie, she thinks Sadie has made a new discovery. But Sadie, contrary to her usual self, tells her sister not to overthink it.
No such thing as monsters. You need to grow up. Sadie! I'm serious, Sawyer. I need to be alone.
When Sadie wakes up again, she realizes it is just a dream. Sadie, highly stressed from the day's events, sleeps until midnight. Soon after getting up, she hears strange noises coming from her mother's art studio. At the same time, Sadie's sister, who also hears the noise, opens her door. Sadie tells her to stay put and nervously pushes the door open, fearing it is the ghost of the man who hanged himself in their house. When the innermost door opens, she then discovers it is her father, who is packing up her mother's belongings. The father believes that Sadie's sister often sees ghosts, and that it might be related to his wife's belongings, so he wants to throw them away. Thinking of her mother, the father's actions instantly ignite Sadie's emotions. The two begin to argue. At this moment, the father, as a psychologist, is unable to guide his children's emotions. He cannot let go of his deceased wife. He never reconciles with his inner self, which causes his own psychological problems. The family is thus immersed in the grief of loss, allowing the monster in the dark to exploit their vulnerability. To help Sadie move on faster, Sadie's friend intentionally tries to reconcile Sadie with the girl she had a conflict with earlier. The father is also very willing, so he asks Sadie to bring them home for a party to foster better relationships with her classmates. However, halfway through the party, the blonde girl insists on seeing the spot where the man hanged himself at their house. With everyone's encouragement, Sadie leads a group of people to the art studio. At this moment, she sees that her own ceiling is also covered with dense black vines. Sadie stares intently. However, the blonde girl outside suddenly slams the door shut. They want to prank Sadie and have some fun at her expense. They even claim this is a type of psychological therapy for Sadie. Amidst the continuous taunts outside the door, Sadie hears her mother's voice from her left. Then, a piercing scream terrifies Sadie. The blonde girl claims nothing happened and that Sadie is just pretending. Seeing that the blonde girl is still distorting the facts, Sadie aims and fiercely slaps her. This makes everyone believe Sadie is too narrow-minded. As the blonde girl leaves, she even mocks Mr. White. She says his daughter is mentally ill. Mr. White rushes upstairs, leaving his younger daughter in the living room. At this moment, the surroundings are pitch black. Only a faint blue light emanates from the television. The younger sister, also feeling nervous, hears a sound coming from the cabinet behind her. She can only operate the controller, using explosions in the game to create light. She clearly sees something crawl past the doorway. This scares the younger sister out of her wits. She hides behind the sofa, tightly covering her mouth. The monster then creeps closer and closer, using her mother's voice. The monster repeatedly calls the sister's name. The monster throws the sister against the large television screen. Upstairs, White and Sadie quickly rush over and take their unconscious sister to the hospital. When she wakes up again, she screams that the thing wants to kill her. After what just happened, Sadie unconditionally believes her sister. Just then, Sadie receives a phone call from Jane. Sadie had previously left her contact information when she entered Jane's house. Jane says she has found a way to destroy the monster and asks Sadie to come over quickly because she needs her help. Seeing her increasingly depressed father, Sadie does not want him to end up like Lester, who hanged himself in their house. She rushes to Jane's old house. Jane states that the thing must be hungry, which is why it tried to kill Sadie's sister. As Sadie observes the trap set around the room, Jane suddenly grabs her from behind and violently ties her to the window. Jane assures Sadie that she will not get hurt, explaining that she only wants to lure out the monster. Then, the scene from the beginning of the story unfolds. Although the monster steps into the trap, Jane realizes that ordinary bullets cannot destroy it. The monster tears Jane in half. Fortunately, the window locking Sadie is not secure. While the monster continues to attack Jane, Sadie escapes, running into the light at the last second. Before she can calm down, she receives a call from White, learning that her father has taken her sister back home. Shadi panics and desperately tells them to stay in a bright place. She urges them to leave before it returns. She insists that her father must listen to her. Previously, Shadi reluctantly smoked marijuana with her friends to fit in. Her father, White, smells it and believes everything Shadi sees is a hallucination from being high.
I'm listening.
As soon as he speaks, the father and daughter are dragged into the darkness. Shadi's heart sinks completely, and she races home to fight. In the deathly silent living room, she finds her sister hiding in a corner. Following a hint, Shadi grabs a weapon and enters the basement. Despite their immense fear, the two sisters find White, who is about to become the monster's prey. The monster's eyes glow, and after a brief stare, it lunges forward, pins Shadi down, and begins to drain something from her body, causing Shadi to gradually lose her vitality. Fortunately, the heavily injured White arrives just in time, grabs a sharp cone, and repeatedly strikes the monster's body. However, because they are in the dark, the three quickly find themselves at a disadvantage and huddle together. When the monster lunges again, they use fire to ignite insecticide. The huge flames make the monster scurry around. Shadi presses her advantage, using the flames to corner the monster. But at the same time, the can in her hand suddenly runs out of fuel. Fortunately, her sister rushes over and quickly provides a can of gasoline. The monster, completely unaware of what is happening, becomes complacent. With the three people working together, the power of family unity finally defeats evil. Sadie also lets go of her obsession with her mother. She moves on with her life, and the movie ends.